Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of Total Recall of HMB, a Battle of the Nations. We are joined live by Pawel Kurzak, captain of the UK team, and of course Ivan Koryagin, direct from St. Petersburg. I'm of course Gavin Stewart, and I'm coming live from Kaunas in Lithuania right now. So what we're going to do today is basically go through, this difficult period. Of course, we have more disappointments going on with tournaments which are cancelled. 2020 is really taking the spirit out of the sport. It's making things extremely complicated for people. And it makes us wonder, how do we get back from this? What can we do to come back? Well, for the moment, what we have is a bit of chat and go back to some classic moments of Battle of the Nations. Of course, there is no tournament this year anyway, which one could argue that it's a blessing in disguise. Ivan, what does this mean for you, having no Battle of the Nations in 2020? Of course, it's an old topic, but just to go over it again, what difference does this make for you?
Well, hello everybody. First of all, nice to have you here. For me, Gavin, I just realized that for me it's something really serious because I haven't missed any Battle of the Nations since 2011. And actually, this is the first year since 2011 that I am not attending Battle of the Nations. And it's a bit strange. And more of that, usually this time of the year, exactly these dates, usually I'm out somewhere joining HMB community and participating in something really big. This year supposed to be like that because we're supposed to be in Serbia. But now I'm just sitting at it is something new actually because I'm just missing something. So I don't think that I should be somewhere else. That's actually the idea.
I think you've really captured the idea there. I think many people, of course, after things which have been published over the last few days on social media, you've captured it there. We should be somewhere else. I think that's.
I would like also to hear what Pavel thinks about this.
Well, hello as well. As you said, Ivan, I think it's a blessing in disguise that it was planned that Battle of the Nations will be every 2 years, and it turned out to be a good idea not to hold it in 2020. It is actually, as you said, precisely the time of Battle of the Nations, usually that time. So Facebook is popping up with the memories from the previous ones, and I had a couple coming through with different pictures, different moments, and so on. The only thing I'm kind of wondering how we're gonna get on from that, because as you said, some of the tournaments are cancelled now, but I'm slightly worried that the knock-on effect will be really big, and especially, we always say fight and travel, right? Well, that second part will be extremely difficult, I guess. So, okay, we can fight, but can we travel?
That's the big question, of course. In you guys' opinions, when do you think things will start to pick up again? Already in a few countries, the lockdown regulations have been relaxed. How long do you think it will be realistically before we see any more tournaments?
It's quite difficult to say because, for example, in Czech Republic, the government allowed us to go outside from country, but actually no one of near countries allowed us to come inside, and we therefore forbid any events more than the 200 people for a whole summer.
So it's likely that we're going to have to wait at least until September before we see any more BotN League events.
Yeah, in Czech Republic, in Germany, in Hungary, already 3 countries are locked for whole summer.
Well, in Russia at least, I heard that like the main flight company Aeroflot, they now selling the flight tickets only September and later. So they are not even selling the international flight tickets up to September.
From UK, there are, I think it was Weezer that opened up a couple of routes, but they are only to Bulgaria and Austria, I believe. So yeah, like, two minor routes, and so on. And in terms of UK, inside UK, I've got no idea when they're going to reopen any sort of possibilities. It's not a problem to go out in UK itself, and I train people outside in terms of like one-on-one basis. We haven't been meeting as a team because that was sort of like a no-no. But I've seen people playing football in small groups, and no one was complaining about it. Usually, sometimes there was some COVID-19 social justice warrior trying to impose their rules on people. But in general, meeting a bigger group of people wasn't possible, and I don't know when it's going to be possible. They seem to be reviewing options every 3 weeks, but really difficult to say when it's going to go back to normal.
Well, unfortunately for this moment, only that we have is just sitting at home and bringing up memories about how was it to meet everybody, how was it to travel to Battle of the Nations and so on. Actually, I would like to start with the impressions. So, could you guys share what was your first Battle of the Nations? What was your just like path to this championship, and what were you feeling? I think we'll start with Pawel because he's our main start for today.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know if you want to hear about the first one, because my first one was really dreadful. Right? It was. I have mainly. I have mainly bad memories, but that's when I find out what I want to do and where I want to be in HMB. I was traveling to Poland first, fighting in another competition, then driving all the time. So I drove to Poland, fought for 4 days, drove to Czech Republic, to the Battle of the Nations. That was 2015, first Battle of the Nations in Prague. I think 2015. Yeah.
Yes.
First one was 2015.
Yes.
And the first thing that stuck in my mind was absolutely dreadful opening ceremony. I mean, dreadful for me because I was standing there for a couple of hours in armor. First we were at ferry in buses, and then standing in sun in armor with the prospect of having 21s afterwards. So first time ever fighting in 21s after a couple of hours standing in the main square, and ex-team captain of Team UK making an absolute spectacle of himself, shouting the UK's battle cry. Well, really giving his best, but he got so exhausted that he got injured, I think, in the first or second fight against in 21s. And it was a big shocker. We had, I remember, Israel in our group, Ukraine, our nemesis France. Then they were our nemesis, and USA. And we only managed to win against Israel. That was a mixed team of Israel and I believe smaller countries like Latvia, Estonia, etc. There's one moment from that fight where Łukasz Kowal really clobbered one of the Israeli fighters. They became really good friends after that, but there was a lot of blood soaking into the Sandow Arena after the hit. I haven't seen the hit. I heard it, and it sounded like a bus crash. And then paramedics coming into the ring, and I've seen the blood gushing out of the helmet, and I was like, "Oh, right, that's some serious stuff." And then we got beaten pretty badly by France, by Ukraine, absolutely annihilated, lost after a long fight against USA. So the day one was a dreadful experience. Then we got our asses kicked in fives. facing against Partizan 1, Russia 1, in a group stage, where the decision was made by the captain that we're going to pretend that we're fighting, and that decision haunts me till this day.
Wow.
I have only one question. By remembering that, but bringing these memories back, do you actually enjoying it or not? Because it's a bit.
Well, as I told you, it was absolutely dreadful experience, but that made me realize what I want to be. So from that moment, it was like, okay, I will never be beaten like that ever again. I will never give up in a fight ever again. Because that was haunting me, and it haunts me till this day. You know, like until now, if I'm looking back onto it, it was a dreadful decision, and the fact that I agreed to do that, and we would have been beaten anyway, but it really stuck in my head, and then the fact that I wasn't fighting on the last day. So, you know, the final moments of Battle of the Nation, the best moments of Battle of the Nations, and I wasn't fighting on that day. That was really like, okay, that's never going to happen again. And from that moment, it never happened again. So that was a really low moment, but it made me realize where I want to be and how I want to proceed. And at the end of the day, that was a good experience, although being dreadful.
Okay, so Gavin, what about you?
Just before I start with mine, I'd like to remind everybody, Pawel is the star of tonight's episode. So any questions that you have, no matter how difficult they are, in fact, the more difficult, the better. Okay. Any questions you have for Pawel, tonight's the night. Okay. So send all questions that you have.
Gavin, just one addition. Yep. I see a lot of Russian-speaking people in the chat.
Okay.
Just a small announcement for them. Друзья, если у вас есть вопросы к Павлу, пожалуйста, не стесняйтесь, задавайте их в том числе на русском. Мы переведем и попробуем ответить. Okay, so I just ask them to ask the questions, even in Russian. We will help with the translation.
Perfect.
So please proceed.
Well, if you remember, you and I started in the development committee at the same time, which was at the end of 2013, the beginning of 2014. But because of the situation I was in with work and everything, it wasn't until 2016 I could actually go after I left my job and left the country I was living in and everything. So 2016 was my first Battle of the Nations. So it was a very late start. And that was the year when we had the Battle of the Nations over 5 days instead of 4 days. And I remember the first day, everything was just sort of thrown in at the deep end. It was just do it, just go, just you have to sort of get off the train running. And the opening ceremony, the day afterwards, I remember in the morning my voice was in really good condition, and some people asked me to sort of shout some things, and because it was the morning, my voice simply was not warmed up. I absolutely destroyed my vocal cords, so I was almost voiceless before we'd even started the commentary. So from that point, Sergei Tsimbal actually bought me a dozen eggs and a cup, and I just had to sort of to crack these eggs and mix them and drink them throughout the day just to maintain my voice. And that was the first time that I did the commentary for Battle of the Nations, and it was difficult in as much as it's the first time. Lots of things were not particularly good. I think everybody can remember I kept on repeating the words "massive takedown" and everything, and I think it really annoyed people actually by the end of it. And I could never shake that off. But it was really good. It was great fun, and there was something was achieved by that. And I got to actually see what it's all about. It's difficult when you're stuck under the rostra, because I was, of course, under the tribune at the time, and it was the same in Barcelona in 2017 when I was just in a box watching a screen. You do not get half of the action. You just get a little bit of what the camera is seeing. And it was really, really problematic, more so in Barcelona. But you need to see the fights to really get the atmosphere of it. So that didn't improve really until 2018. But that first time, it was a phenomenal experience. It was a really wonderful experience, and I'll never forget it.
That's nice to hear. As for me, I already told you that Sam was first time on 2011. Just like we have some questions from chat, so I think I will just read them, and maybe we'll continue then with my story. It's actually a question from Sergei Ukolov to you, Pavel. He says hi, and he's asking why Polish fighters in 5 versus 5 category with such long battle traditions and stuff, why do not we see them on the prize places at all? So why are not they so good? So what do you think?
Okay, well, as you probably know, I've never fought in a Polish team, so it's completely like my biased private opinion. Don't take it as something that, you know, oh, this is what it is. It's my personal opinion, and so on. I'm a big fan of a Polish team. It can't be any other way. But what I've noticed, because Polish league was fairly strong at the beginning. I mean, I'm talking 2013, 2014, and so on. And Polish team seems to got very closed in that league, and they haven't traveled abroad apart from episodes in the Dynamo Cup and so on. But they've never fought anywhere else. They traveled to. There was one tournament in Germany where we've met with them. One of my first tournaments, and because of the fact that they've stayed inside and fought only amongst themselves, people who actually traveled and fought with other teams, I think they were starting developing a little bit faster. Now, when that happened, then they have been overtaken, but they haven't realized that they have been overtaken, and they still assume that everyone else around them is not as good, and so on, so on. They still consider themselves to be third or fourth team, and then suddenly it hit them. But when it hit them, it was already too late to realize that, oh, we're not third, we're not fourth, we're falling behind it. We were beaten by Poland in 2016 in Prague. And they took fourth place in 21s, but we've beaten their team of 5. We've beaten them subsequently in Barcelona and so on. I mean, we as Team UK, and I think because they realized so late that the world is moving forward, now they're having problems catching up.
Okay, so I hope Sergey get the message, get his answer. So again, guys, if you have any questions, please ask. We will try to immediately answer to them, because we have such a friendly chat here, sharing memories. Maybe some of you can share your own stories or remember some story with Pavel or whatever, or with you guys. So share it in your web chat. Let him be ashamed on the information. So back to my first Battle of the Nations. I can't say it. Well, it was exciting. I don't think it will be exciting to actually to hear whatever, because I was just a fan. I was like a fan of the Russian team, and back those times my brother was in Russian national team of Russia. And me, him, and a couple of our good friends, we just took a car and traveled to Khotin, Ukraine. The most bright memory that I had, I remember it was, I think, 3 full days of fights. And the most bright memories for me is that I was sitting all these 3 days on the tribune, from very beginning to the evening, and sitting for, I don't know, 12 hours, breaking just to have something to eat or whatever. I was just sitting, guarding my place, and just watching everything. And I remember that one day it was really bright sun, so it was a really sunny day, and I was completely burned. Just I didn't have any cap or whatever. I was completely burned, and next day I was freezing because it was raining and it was cold. But I was sitting there all this thing, and back those times we took it really seriously. So it was just not like there was a lot of uncertainty. You don't know your opponents so well. There are a lot of discussions in the evening. So who are these guys? How they do? Some sort of the tensions between teams. So it was like a serious, really serious stuff. So we're here not just for like sport competition, but it's like matter of something. And it was really, really a good feeling to be a part of such community. It was really fun. Well, it is evolving every year. It evolves in what we have now. I think it's a good evolvement, but I hope we can recreate some of this spirit of seriousness about everything that we have that we had back in 2010, 2011, where when each fight matters, it's like in principle. So it's not about like points. It's not about tournament ladder. It's about us or them. So we have to beat them. They beat us. Why? What the hell happens? Who is to blame? So was really, really serious. So yeah, very, very, very good memories back from those times.
We have some questions from chat. First question, do we do medieval reenactment or only HMV?
Sorry?
Who is doing reenactment or only HMV?
I'm only doing HMB. I'm purely sportsman, ignorant in I mean, let's say ignorant in terms of reenactment and so on. I'm purely in this for the sport and for beating people.
Honest answer.
Okay, and second question was for Pavel, what's your favorite Battle of the Nation and why?
I've got two favorite ones, and I can't distinguish between them. First one is Italy, Santa Severa, because of the way how it ended, and the third place playoff against France, where we have defied all odds, and everyone thought, they lost against them, they're gonna lose again, and so on. And I knew we're not gonna lose that. And then second one is obviously the next one, so Serbia, because of the amount of medals that we had. The only downside of that is that we had to get those medals in a tent, and I had to get my MVP, which I still don't think it was really deserved, because I could name at least 10 better fighters on that tournament. But it would be a great honor to receive that award in front of the great audience. Serbia had the best audience ever. And it would have been such a great honor to take the team out there and, to receive medals in front of all these people who were supporting us for so many days. And then we got washed away, absolutely drenched. And yeah. So it's a little downside that kind of doused my enthusiasm for Serbia. But in terms of results, the best was Serbia. In terms of the atmosphere, it's because of that last fight that meant so much. It's Italy.
Well, actually, you mentioned a really good thing. I have a personal question from Irina Kamaeva, actually, because we were discussing this yesterday, and you mentioned Santa Severa, the fight between France and UK. And at the end of the fight, Gavin, an official commentator of Battle of the Nation, was jumping like a baby and screaming, and went to congratulate you on the list under the cameras and so on. So Gavin, the question is, what the hell were you thinking?
Look, I've a number of people who shall remain nameless, had a word with me about that. But I was having quite a difficult time in Italy, because one thing that I was on the Saturday, I got some really tragic news from the UK, and it was sort of hard to deal with that. And this is going to sound really, really quite stupid, but I kind of needed something, some like boost, something exciting, something to sort of celebrate, if you like. And I left Callum alone to take over the commentary, knowing full well that I just had a good feeling about it. So I left him on his own. What was I thinking? I just needed something to celebrate. I just needed something to be ecstatic about. Was it my most professional moment? No. Okay. I fully apologize to the entire community. I apologize to the French team. The UK team probably wondered why on earth I was in there anyway.
We didn't even notice you, believe me.
Good. Okay. You're the only people who didn't notice me then. Excellent. That's good. That's good. Yeah, okay. I knew I would get asked publicly about that. I needed something to celebrate, and I was really, really happy for the UK team, because I know that what they had been through in that year. There were so many changes, challenges that they'd faced, and I was really, really proud of everyone in the team of such a great job that they did. They really earned that bronze medal. So there were good intentions behind it, but yes, I know it was unprofessional, and I promise it will not happen again.
Yeah, guys, we're also sharing some stories, like, from the backstage. So, organization team, and we have our own stories.
We do many stories
regarding this. So I hope you will get something. Again, if you ask maybe some questions regarding some things that you haven't got or haven't understood, you can ask, and if we can try to answer. Some of the things should be left alone, I would say, but maybe some of the things we will able to talk to and just to clarify some things, such like this how to say it, the heavy rain in Serbia, because we discussed it with Sergei Ukolov, and he was just said, okay, I was just sitting in the tent with Dmitry Trostin and like waiting for rescue team to come. So basically, I think everybody remembers this moment from Serbia.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
but it was a small miracle that, I mean, okay, of course, it's extremely disappointing that the award ceremony wasn't carried out in full. But I still think it's a small miracle that we managed not to get rained on for all the category events.
Yeah, for sure, because it would be a disaster if it.
Yeah, because of course it was 150 versus 150 on that day, and if people were to miss out on the 150, then it really would have been a disaster.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so. Yeah, some really good memories, actually, guys. Maybe we can share some memories from back from the summit. Maybe can discuss some decision. Like you mentioned, both you, Gavin and Pawel. You mentioned that it was a God blessing that we are not the Battle of the Nation wasn't planned this year, and we decided to do it every 2 years. But how do you think? Is it the right decision? I mean, not in the context of Corona and stuff, but just as a general thing. Do you think this is right or wrong?
Pawel?
I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No. You just
okay.
The question is.
So, I think it's a right decision. It's going to increase the prestige of the event. Now it's every 2 years. So if you screw something up, then you have to wait 2 years to fix it. I mean, as a fighter, right? So if you lose it, then you have to wait 2 years to do it. Another thing is the logistical thing. It gives people time to prepare. It gives people time to save the money for the tournaments. It doesn't put so much strain on teams traveling from far away. You know, we complain, you know, flying from UK, it's pretty expensive to get to places like Serbia, etc., etc. But you've got teams like, you know, Australia or USA, and so on, and that makes it you know, much more expensive for them, and having it every 2 years makes it I think more attainable and more affordable. It gives longer time for the selection process. It gives longer time for the preparations as well. Of course, some people start to prepare a month before, but you know, that's up to them whether they do it or not. But in a general overview, I think it's a good decision. Of course, you know, if possible, I'd like to fight more. But with Buhurt League and other tournaments around, you can still have a lot of fights, a lot of competition, and then have that real celebration of HMB, which is Battle of the Nations, and have it full on with people, you know, not being forced to sit it out because they couldn't afford to come, and so on. I actually have someone just been asking the question whether we know where is 2021 going to be held.
By the way, you talked about the trip as expensive. Just for the guys to know, just maybe to compare the expenses. How expensive it was to travel to Serbia for your team? So just approximate.
It was about £280, as far as I remember my expenses. So £280 for a flight. Then we had a van hired to travel the equipment, and it was £40 per fighter, and accommodation. So some people opted out for the accommodation in Airbnb. I paid around £70-80 for it. So altogether, you know, all costs, food, travel, etc., I think it was £500-600 for me. Of course, you know, I'm not counting equipment that needed to be changed, replaced, swapped, and so on, because, you know, that comes with it. So about £500-600, and I think it was like that for most of the people, unless they've opted to stay in the camp, which I always discourage as a captain. Well, now I'm the captain, but the previous captain, Daniel Winter, he was always discouraging staying in the camp if people can afford to stay in the Airbnb, because camp is not a place for fighters, really.
There is one question in the chat. I guess it's for Ivan, or you want to continue this team?
Yeah, we can ask the question. It's not a problem. I mean, I see the question. It's about this Olympic status.
Yeah. It's a question for you, but shortly, please.
Well, I hope that in a couple of days we will have a stream talk with the president of HMBIA, Eduard M. And this question, I believe, should come for him, because he is the man who is involved in this kind of process. Because I know that there is some work is done regarding this, so we are moving in this direction in bringing the HMB into the Olympic sport status. But what exactly is done in this matter, I don't have such information. Sorry. I believe this is the question for Eduard M, and I will send this question, so maybe he could prepare something to talk about regarding this matter. Okay.
If I might go back to what we were saying before about the idea of having Battle of the Nations every 2 years, I think I absolutely agree with everything that Pawel said. You know, how it makes it better for fighters, and of course, logistically speaking, it's a lot better for people. But also in terms of competitiveness, I think it's much better, because this means that there can be more Buhurt League events, so people can have time to develop at a high level in local tournaments, in European tournaments, in tournaments in North and South America. And I think it just raises the overall level of competitiveness. You know, in the past, there have been people who, they've just bought their armor and all of a sudden they're going to Battle of the Nations. And it's Battle of the Nations is just not a first-timers arena. It's not the place for first-timers anymore. The people have to have experience. They've got to go to these tournaments. BotN League has now provided this opportunity for teams and fighters to develop, and they've got plenty of time to develop before the selection process. So one really big benefit is the level of competitiveness that I see for Battle of the Nations.
Well, I hope also the introduction of the division system also allows some teams actually for 5 versus 5 to test their abilities. Mm-hmm. By the way, Pavel, what do you think about this division system? How it? Do you think it is good? Do you think that it is bad for your team?
I think it's a very good idea. May not be very good for my team because we are in Tier 1 and we only have to face the toughest team there. I'm kidding. I want to be in Tier 1 and I want to be fighting the toughest team. It doesn't mean that I don't want to fight someone at the lower level, but it made the competition much more difficult.
Sorry, Pavel. Just maybe some of our listeners, some of our friends do not aware of the system. In Battle of the Nation, we have group category 5 versus 5. And last year, we decided to split the whole bunch of the teams that they have from different nations into certain divisions according to their strength or position that they had in previous Battle of the Nations. So, for example, if you are taking the first place 3 years in a row, then you ended up in a gold division and you start fighting in the gold with the strongest team. And for example, if you're a completely new team, first time to Battle of the Nation, you are starting in the bronze division where you can meet less tough opponents, maybe similar rookies as you. And we believe this system is a bit more just because it gives chances to the people to test their strength against at least more or less even opponent. So you are not just thrown under some heavy stuff and that's it. So it's just a small remark for the people who are listening to us. Maybe some of the guys are not aware. Yeah.
So we have questions from Sergei Kolov to Pavel. What do you do to bring other UK teams to the level of White Company?
Okay. We don't have a centralized system, and it's difficult to convince everyone that they should be training with White Company because when they come to our trainings, they realize how different the level of White Company and other teams are. So it's quite difficult to actually bring people up. It's a slow process. People are stepping up, and there are some who want to train with us, who want to fight against us because they know that benefits them. But there were people who decided to quit that sport after they train and fought against White Company, and we train with sticks. We don't train with metal weapons. So after a training session with White Company, they decided, okay, that's not for us. But I also think it's a good thing because, at the end of the day, if they think it's not for them, then, as a national team, they're never going to be the benefit of the national team. And I'm thinking about the development of national team probably more than about the development of the sport in UK itself. So it's a difficult thing. The only thing that we do, we offer the opportunity to train with us. Anyone is always welcome to come and train with us. Anyone is always welcome to come and fight against us. We were planning, a 5v5 tournament. These plans are all hold at the moment. We've organized a WMFC Challenger in UK, held in our training center, and a lot of people came. We actually had participants from 4 countries, so that was great. But we had a lot of participants from UK, so that was good to see. That's it. I don't have a centralized training system in UK because previously that didn't work. Maybe I have to figure out how to do it so that it would work. We do organize national trainings, but I believe that they are once a month or once every 2 months national training is not going to benefit everyone as much as simple frequent training, even if they train at their local level.
Okay. So I would also, you mentioned one interesting thing that I also would like to address too. Historical camp. So it's always a question like, historical camp, yes or no? Let's start with this question. Gavin, what do you think? Historical camp on Battle of the Nation.
Well, when you say yes or no, the question is, who are you referring this to? Because, of course, part of this sport, of course, is the historical aspect. I mean, we spend a lot of time dedicating to the authenticity.
Gavin. Let's put it personally, like for you, and to make it more difficult, tell us a story. Let's share a story about the historical camp. Right.
It seems like you've got something in mind already from me. I don't know.
I don't. No. This is it's just something from out from nowhere. So I haven't planned this question. So just
okay. I fully agree with the historical camp. It's part of any medieval festival. It's something which brings in a lot. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at the scenes in front of you now, the tribunes are absolutely full. When the fights are not going on, what are these people supposed to do? Are they just supposed to go home? Of course not. They need another aspect to it. And the reality is that people are so enthusiastic about this entire, you can't even call it just a sport. It's more of a movement. There's the whole aspect of the history behind it. So, of course, the primary focus, hands down, is the sport of it. But I think also what brings us the bread and the interest of people and what makes it an entire festival is, of course, this historical camp. Do I think it should be there? Absolutely. I've been to, I don't do it so much anymore, I have to admit, but of course I used to stay in the historical camp. And it was great fun. You get to, of course, as you all know, that I used to like doing historical cooking as well. And that was sort of all part of it. And you get to live that kind of lifestyle in the tents, and whatever the weather is, you deal with it, you move on. And it's just a pleasant experience. And I think that everybody should try that out. As Pawel said, he's not a reenactor, he's purely a sportsman. And you'll find that most people are exactly the same way. But of course, you have the minority of people who also are involved in the reenactment and the historical side of it. And, what can you say against them? I think it's a great thing a great contribution they make to the whole aesthetic, to the movement and the festivals themselves. It's what draws in the interest from people. So it's also what happens outside the list that grabs the attention and makes this a marketable movement.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Not the story. You promised us a story.
Oh, I promised you a story now, did I?
Yes, already promised.
I don't know. I don't know how much I'm actually allowed to say, or what kind of things I'm allowed to say here. I don't know. There was one incident in Prague when I was. I was on a break from the commentary. The fights hadn't started, and I was speaking to people about. Somebody was asking about the history of it and all these sorts of things, and of course I started getting engaged in this conversation, and all of a sudden I heard people shouting for where I was, or where the F I was, because I was supposed to be doing my commentary at that time, and I just sort of, totally ignored this person I was speaking to, started running, tripped over on the grass, and my kilt went. Of course, I don't wear underpants with my kilt, so my kilt just flew up as I was on the floor. I was face down on the floor, with my ass blowing in the wind and showing everybody. So I do apologise to all those poor people in Prague, in Petrin Hill, who had to see my backside. I apologise for that as well.
Okay. I can share mine story. It's not so exciting as Gavin's.
Well, I wouldn't say it's exciting. I don't have exciting stories. They're more embarrassing stories.
Okay. My story is not so embarrassing. Let's put it like this. First of all, my opinion regarding the historical camp. I'm not a fighter. I'm just part of the organization team. But when I was attending Battle of the Nation, just as a regular visitor, historical camp for me was a place where I can feel actually the international spirit of the community. So for me, it's not about the reenactment or some sort of the glimpse of the history. For me, it's a place where I can just see and talk to different people, and they're doing pretty much the same that I do. They're interested in what I'm interested in. And this is a place where I can easily interact with them. I can talk to them. I can drink with them, make some jokes, exchange contacts, make some new friends. I believe it's important to have a place like this, because if everybody lives in the hotel, okay, so the fights are over and everybody says see you tomorrow, and everybody just disappear. But the camp is a place when we can gather and just, at least part of us at the moment. I understand that for a lot of people, it's much more convenient to live in the hotels and somewhere else. But still, the camp is something that unites us. I don't think that Battle of the Nations would reach this level. The international community wouldn't reach this level without such place as historical camp, because it was started there. Mm-hmm. A lot of things was started in the historical camp during these discussions, evenings, and so on. Even for me, it was like everything started in historical camp. I just made some new friends, start to talk to them, and then I decided, okay, why shouldn't I join actually the people who organizing all of this, and make even more friends. And my story, as I said, it's not so embarrassing. Sorry, not so funny. It was 2013. It was France, Egmort, and this is exactly the Battle of the Nations that I've met a lot of people, new people, and me and my brother suddenly we decided to have a quest. So we do live action RPG games. A lot of people have this background in Russia before the reenactment or during the reenactment. I know Sergei Okolov is still doing live action RPG games, so it's a common hobby for us. So we decided we should spice everything up and make ourselves a quest. And the quest was that my brother took a shield, and we decided to get a signature of the captains of the national team. And we did it. And actually, I can take just a couple of minutes. Again, it's something like that comes out of nowhere, so I haven't been preparing for that. But I still have this shield here in my apartment, and this is some sort of the artifact from 2013 Battle of the Nation with the signatures of the national team captains, even with the signature of Edward M.
Fantastic. Excellent.
So that's... Yes, Pawel.
Just to mention, I totally agree with you in terms of the whole idea of historical camp. I enjoy going there. I enjoy meeting people, etc., etc. The only thing I'm saying that from the fighter's perspective, when I'm fighting for 4 days.
No, Pawel, it's not about just we're not trying to convincing each other. It's just share. You can share your own opinion. So maybe historical camp you don't want. Yeah, I don't live in a historical camp either. So I'll be honest with that. I don't live there. But maybe you still have some story that you can share with us regarding the historical camp. So what happened there? Maybe you met someone there, or I don't know, make some friendly sparring with someone. Maybe there was some conflicts. Maybe somebody came to you and said, Pavel, you're a bastard. Get here.
Nobody said that to my face. So it's very probable. I'm pretty sure a lot of people think that, but no one said that to my face yet. So I don't mind if people say that. If that's their honest opinion, it's like, yeah, I fully agree.
Okay. So, Gavin, now it's your turn about the question. I just, as I promised, I would like to have a couple of minutes just bringing the shield back, so to show it to everybody. I think like it's something I'm proud of. So maybe for somebody it will be a piece of the good memories as well. So if you excuse me for a couple of minutes, I'll just bring it.
Okay. Pavel, just a question for you, which is not actually there's nothing that's come through here. Talk to us a little bit about. I mean, you travel a lot. You've been all over the world for tournaments. Apart from the fight itself, like the level of the fighters, what appeals to you? What makes a good tournament for you as a fighter?
Two things. Logistics. If the logistics are easy, then the tournament is appealing. I mean, if it's easy to get there, if it's close from one place where we, for example, change in armor to the fighting arena, that's really appealing. And the second thing is the site. So I'll give you two examples. White Horse tournament in Denmark, Buchurt League 2018, first season of Buchurt League.
Yeah.
And the tournament was actually in former prison, right?
Yeah.
So we were sleeping in the kitchen of that former prison, open plan space, and couple of mattresses provided by the organizers, and then you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, and there's breakfast there for you, about 10 meters away from you, right? So you can go have your breakfast, can come back, you've got plenty of space where you can prepare your armor, you can change, you walk out, and you've got about 20-30 meters to the fighting arena, right? And then between the fights, you can go back to that spot. Tournament was run through 2 days. Pretty long breaks between the fights, so that was kind of important. But that's the logistical side. So it was pretty easy to get there. We flown to Billund. We had a rental car. No, we didn't have a rental car. One of our guys picked us up, drove us to that place. Then when we were going back, someone else drove us. And the logistical side was absolutely brilliant. In terms of the site itself, well, ex-prison maybe not such an exciting spot to be in. However, tournament was absolutely great. Okay, and now the other side. So Palace du Tau tournament in Reims, in France, and it's next to the cathedral. It's the Palace of French people. Please forgive me if I make any mistakes. But the Reims Cathedral, it's a coronation cathedral for the French king. So ages of history looking right at you. And I remember having a warm up there, and literally as I look up, there's the cathedral towering over us, and we were fighting in a courtyard of the Palace du Tau. It does not get better than that. I mean, in France it does, because they have their forts, they have so many great places. It's unbelievable, and that was another example, right? So great place, maybe not so convenient to get to. I mean, I've stayed there in Airbnb and so on. Had a wonderful time, but the venue itself was just absolutely stunning, absolutely amazing, and so on, right? So these are two things. One, it can be the venue. Two, it can be the logistics. So it all depends. If you can combine these two things, you're the winner.
Yeah. Yeah, France is one of these places that, I mean, they have so many tournaments every year, and because there's such a rich history in France, the likelihood is that it'll be held in an absolutely divine location. Some of the castles, the monasteries, the areas, and the historical parts of it are just stunning. It's, you know, generally speaking, convenient to get to. It makes a lot for the spectators as well. You know, it makes you stay around a lot longer, and you get much more of that sort of spirit. If you compare it to like a sports center, which of course is a practical solution for tournaments, but really, if you can also have that, as Pavel was saying, if you can also have that that surrounding, then it just makes such a big difference. It really completes the whole idea of it. And for this reason, we needed to have where we need to choose historical locations to host Battle of the Nations. We simply couldn't have it in any other area.
100%.
So, Ivan, you're back. Have you got something to show us?
Yes, actually. Here it is. Piece of the memory.
There it is.
So how many signatures did you gather there?
Well, I actually haven't counted, but I will give this picture to our SMM manager, and I believe they will post it. Just a piece of memory so everybody could count. Or maybe somebody can find his own. But at least here I see the signature of the Edward M, and it says in Russian, "Франции вперед." And also here, like, you know, really a mark of the bear paw. So, so yeah, that was a really good thing. Actually, I really enjoyed this one, and it's a really good like artifact back from old times.
Sure.
By the way, guys, both you, Gavin, Pavel, and the guys who's looking, if you have any piece of the memories from Battle of the Nations back from some years, please share it with us. Maybe you can send us pictures.
If you give me just 1 minute, I'll actually bring something.
Okay.
Actually, I have 3 shields from last Battle of the Nation.
We can make some sort of the flash mob in the social media. So if you have a really good piece of the memory, share a story and post a picture. So just everybody could
Actually, I have it right now.
see what happens.
So I can show you what I've got here, right? This is for me. This is a holy artifact. It will be framed, and it's a really important one, right? Well, as you can see, it's a tabard of Russia national team, Ruskaya Zborna, but who it belongs to is the most important thing. This is tabard of Yevgeny Gladkov. And he swapped his tabard with me after Barcelona.
Fantastic.
You know, I know Barcelona wasn't something that the Russian team is very fond of. But I've got to say that a couple of months ago, I was talking to Andrei Kishelus, and he was rewatching the video of the fight. And well, we of course talking about 21v21 final against Ukraine, and he says, "You were the only person talking to me. You were the only person in arena cheering for Russia." And in terms of, you know, foreigners, I'm like, yeah, well, I cheer for Russia. And I think he was a little bit shocked because, you know, Ukraine was the underdog. So everyone else cheers for the underdog. For me, it was such an emotional moment watching, you know, I've got good friends in both teams, but I was much closer with guys, especially like Yevgeny Gladkov. So watching them there was a really emotional moment for me. So, and here I still got this. For me, it's a holy artifact. I consider Yevgeny to be the greatest fighter ever. So having that is really important.
Mm.
Yeah, nice memories. By the way, we have a question. I believe it's Artem Vasilyev is there under Bugurt League account. and he is asking Pavel, please say a few words about fight with Russian national team on the Battle of the Nations 2019.
If you want, we can just turn on fight with the Russia one in 5
the Russia one fight, the famous Russia one fight.
You can find you can see the fight in the Skype. I share.
Yeah.
Well, you can start talking actually, Pavel. I believe Alex will help us, but you can say what was your have you expected you were able to beat Russia 1 in such a fashion?
We haven't expected that we can beat them, but we came out there to beat them. It was our first fight. It was their first fight.
Sorry, Pavel. Just for our friends who may be not aware, back in 2019, during the group stage, team from UK had win the fight with the Russia 1, and it was a bit of a surprise for everybody. So this is why we would like to talk about this fight and Pavel's impression.
Yeah.
So sorry, Pavel.
It's okay. Yeah, so as I said, we haven't expected that we can beat them, but we knew we can. So our assumption, okay, let's go and let's. Everyone, kind of always said that when they see the draw of the groups, they assume, okay, they're gonna take first place, they're gonna take second place, third place, and so on. And then we were like, okay, no. Let's make some upsets and let's change it. And we came out there, and in the first round we managed to take an advantage. Once we got the advantage, we took another fighter down, and it ended in 5-3, and that really made us buzzing, and we kept going. Second round, we lose a fighter, so this time we are in disadvantage, and it went down to 4-2. I got stuck in a corner, being pinned there, but by who else than my personal hero, Evgeny Gladkov, and I could not move. I was doing everything that I can not to fall, and all I could see was Łukasz Kowal outside, literally facing 3 other fighters. And then what happened? He takes Sergei Ukolov down, and we suddenly 3-2. So first round 5-3 for us, second round 3-2 for Russia 1. And at this time, I knew we've won the fight. It seemed like everyone else was preparing for the third round, but I knew we've won the fight based on the rules, that there are no draws and so on, and it's by the small points, or there can be a draw, but it's based on a small point. I knew we won the fight, and you can see there's this moment where everyone is kind of like waiting, what's happening. The marshals were just confirming the rules, just to make sure that they make the right decision. They announced the right winner. I think Gavin and Callum got a bit confused, and one of them ran to the arena to find out what's going on. But yeah, we've won it, and that was a pretty special moment. They took their own, and they beat us in a final. But what was the best thing for me was the fact that after 2018, a lot of people were complaining, there were no fights for the final, so Russia 1, 2, 3, they flipped the coin or they decide. And I said in that discussion, well, if you're complaining about it, get to the final and make them fight. And I guess that's what you say when put your money where your mouth is. And we did that. So we made Russian teams fight us in a final. We knew it's going to be almost impossible to win. I still hope that we gave good fights, and we managed to do that, and eventually took third place, which was pretty exciting considering that none of the teams from outside of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus has ever achieved that. So,
I think, if I can interrupt, I think Pavel is extremely modest in this, because And I think you're such a good guy, Pavel, that you're playing yourself down. You're speaking as if that you had no chance whatsoever. But I mean, I really would like to point out that that UK won, that Y Company have absolutely decorated with high results and having gone such a long way in such a short time. It proves the competitiveness of the sport, and it proves the drive and motivation of a team to get at that level. It's not an impossible task. It's true that, okay, if you're up against Russia 1, look, it's going to be a difficult task. They are Russia 1 for a very, very good reason. They are the best. But really, I don't think anything can be taken away. I don't think there's any time for modesty in this. I think your achievement in this fight was something absolutely phenomenal. I don't think it was a surprise at all. I think it's a very, very good reflection of how far you've come in this sport.
I think it wasn't a surprise. I think it was an absolute sensation. And in terms of impossibility, I'm not talking about this one. I'm talking about the final. When in a final, when you're going to face two teams which will not fight one another, they're going to have a bye round, and we have to face both of them. Our assumption was, okay, we need to try to do something. But as I said, by the end of the day, I was absolutely exhausted. I was running on fumes. You can see from the transmission how long it takes. That happens at 3 o'clock. What we're watching now, that happens at 3 o'clock, and the final was taking place at 9, I believe. Yeah. So 6 hours later, and we haven't had a weak opponent. In that time, we had Russia 1, USA 1, USA 3, Italy 3 or 1, please forgive me, I don't remember. Ukraine 1, Ukraine 3, and Russia 1 and 3 again. So name me a weak team.
Yeah, exactly.
Amongst these. So after 6 hours of that, I was pretty proud of how we did actually hold ourselves physically in this fight. Some people are complaining, they're hugging one another. There's a first takedown, Bogusz. So that's the advantage in a round 1. Some people are complaining, it's boring, it's hugging, and then so on. Well, then make us fight any other way, right?
Simple
Complaining that you don't like how we fight, force us to fight your game, right?
Yeah.
You're more than welcome. Anyone can force us. We had teams that tried to run around us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it went for them. I don't remember much from it. It was pretty short.
This is the thing. I mean, it doesn't seem the best strategy, but the thing is, I think that it's a part of evaluating your opponent and trying something that perhaps. And I noticed, in fact, in BotN Prime in Monaco, that you have the top teams and they have their sort of startup. Occasionally, things changed a little bit, even within the teams themselves, depending on the start. Some teams have that standard way of starting the fight. Other teams broke it round. And it's interesting to see how teams that maintain the same starting lineup, how they actually respond to teams who try to, run through, break around. And as Pawel actually said, to run around them, okay, I'm not sure how effective that would ever be. But of course, you have to respond to that. We're not saying that you should just ignore these people, because it might be they might find holes. And of course, people have taken down top fighters by using surprise tactics, and they deserve the results that they get for that.
By the way, Pawel, Gavin mentioned your phenomenal results, and phenomenal results indeed. Maybe can you share your advice, or maybe you can share your own story, how you were able to develop your team from such results that you had in 2015 when you were beaten to hell, as you mentioned, to the actually one of the top teams in the world in 2019, just in 4 years. So how actually, what did you do?
So.
As a team, I mean, not you personally, but as a team.
Yeah. The teams are very different, and even the way they were created was very different. 2015 team was this kind of first of all, there wasn't a match pool to choose from, right? there was UK. I think we brought 20 something fighters maximum there, and it was really scrounging. Like we were scraping the bottom to get that 25 fighters to the Battle of the Nations, and kind of the UK one was let's call it the all-star team. I do not consider myself being a star in neither now, but basically in 2015. So the best fighters in UK formed that team, and we did train together, but it wasn't so cohesive, and it wasn't so much of that training together. The same approach was taken in 2016, and then it started changing. 2017, it was White Company. We've created White Company that year in January of that year. And by the Battle of the Nations, it was White Company as UK one. Why it was White Company? Well, because we won the eliminations. And the decision was made that the team that wins, that's going to be the team that proceeds to fight as UK one. UK 2, UK 3, they were still given to their respective captains to be chosen from. And as a majority, there were, again, cohesive clubs that formed that team, maybe with some strengthening. But UK1 was purely fighters from White Company. And it was, again, the same situation in 2019, 2019. And the squad changed a little bit, but it's mainly the same fighters. Now, we have exactly the same mindset in White Company. We are a competitive sports team, and that's the only goal, to win. We don't have any other goals. We don't have a goal of huge membership. We don't have a goal of such big social media presence and so on. We are only interested in one thing, on winning in that arena, and nothing else is important. And because that's the only goal, and that same mindset is in everyone's head, I think that's why we're so successful. There are still some scalps that we're missing, and we're definitely going to fight for them. I don't like to be fourth. I hate it. So I'm not going to be fourth again in Monaco.
What can you say about some of the other teams that have come through the ranks? So the teams who came to BotN Prime in Monaco this year compared to last year. The Warriors of Light were awarded for their achievements. What can you say about the competition? How was it different this year? Of course, a number of the teams were the same as BotN Prime last year, but there were a few newcomers. What can you say about them?
So Warriors of Light, we fought against them, and I think by the time they fought us, they already suffered a little bit from that competition. You have to realize that BotN Prime is an extreme competition. In terms of fights, it's like every fight you have, it's a final. There's the takedown. That's Łukasz Kowal in situation 4-on-2 taking Sergei Ukolov down. So Sergei, I think you're not the happiest man at that stage, but in terms of that takedown, this is the takedown that won us a fight. Sorry, I'm watching.
That's okay.
My heart is already pounding when I'm watching this. So you have to realize that BotN Prime is an extreme competition, and every fight is like a final in there. There is nothing easy, and you will suffer. Right, so if you don't have a long bench and if you don't have an even team, you will start getting tired, you will start getting injured, and you will suffer as you go along, right? So we had Warriors of Light, I believe, in our quarterfinal, if I'm not mistaken, and they already suffered after the group fights. Whilst I think we were all good at this stage. Sorry, my mistake. It wasn't a quarterfinal. probably one of the last fights. But I know they already suffered a bit in the previous fight, so that was they felt it. In terms of other teams, we haven't faced anyone brand new apart from the team from Mexico. You could tell that there was a gap between them and the rest of the teams. However, it was a great thing that they, as winners of the North American Conference, were awarded that spot and could fight, because for them it's a big step forward. And for the other teams in North America or South America or anyone around the world, it should be a signal, okay, we can make it there, right? All we have to do is train, fight, and so on. And not only the appearance should be the goal, but the performance, right? Because it's okay, but it's not Olympics. So the taking part, it's fine, but what's the point of traveling half around the world and getting your asses kicked, right? I mean, I don't like that. So maybe some people do, but I definitely I definitely don't like that.
Pavel, by the way, this day I'm bringing like this embarrassing memories, both from Gavin and you, and regarding the asses kicked. No offense, but what do you feel when you took the 4th place second time on Poker Pride? Well, yes, somebody has to ask it. Somebody has to.
100%. I think that was one of the lowest moments of my whole career, and it wasn't because of what happened. Because of the fact that we lost the 3rd place. I kind of, I won't say I was prepared for it that we're gonna lose it, but you probably remember we went 15 minutes. Against Western Tower, against Zapadnia Bashnia. And I wanted to carry on. The problem was that there was a confusion there. And I was convinced that we're still fighting. I was convinced that the result has to be 2-1 rounds. And the confusion was that if in the 3rd round there is a result, so if it's not, the first round was 2-2, the second round was 4-4, I think. And the 3rd round, they've won by 1 point, 3-2 or 4-3. I don't remember now. I think it was 3-2. So there was a result in one of these rounds, which means they win 2-1. They win 1-0 the whole fight. And I obviously protested and I disagreed, because the day earlier, we were clearly told that there has to be up to 2-1 rounds in that stage. So not only we lose the fight fair and square, but we lose it and it's like, but we still should be fighting. So not only we lost the fight after fighting for 15 minutes and try to fight Western Tower for 15 minutes. Good luck. Try to fight anyone for 15 minutes, and then see how you feel. Very little break, and we face old friends who had a lighter semi-final, if I may say so. And obviously they lost their semi-final, and that they faced us. So we tried, we did our best. We lost again, fair and square. There's no two words about it. There was no, decisions that could have gone this or that way. So both fights were lost. But yeah, it was a pretty low moment. I was questioning a lot of things at that stage. But what can you do? You dust yourself off and you make sure that the next year you are not in a 3rd place playoff, but you're fighting in a final. So even if you lose, you get to shake the hand of Prince of Monaco.
It's not the first time you've gone a long time fighting against Western Tower. There was a final that lasted 26 minutes. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it was a tournament in Nijica in Poland, and it was round robin formula, so everyone was fighting everyone, and for reasons unknown, two teams that were facing one another in a final fight. It wasn't a final because round robin, so everyone fights everyone. But it was us and Western Tower. And first round 5-1 for Western Tower. Second round 5-1 for us. Third round 3-3, I think. Fourth round, it was more than 26 minutes.
It was more than 26 minutes.
It was 30 something minutes.
Wow.
Because there was a fourth round which was a draw. And in the fifth one, the decision was made not to have a time limit, right? So there was a suggestion to solve that fight in some other way. So Artem Savanovic came up with the idea that we're going to do a slap contest, but Łukasz was about to agree. He's our team captain in White Company. Łukasz was about to agree, but it was supposed to be a slap contest with Yevgeny Ageyev. So Łukasz decided to back out from the slap contest with Yevgeny. I think everyone who's a bit sane would back out from a slap contest with Yevgeny. If you don't know, there are 3 levels of pain. There's small pain, there's big pain, and there's Ageyev. So that's how it looks like. Yeah. So the fifth round went on for 13 minutes. So that was pretty long. Western Tower took it.
Well, I can say, Pavel, that there is some sort of the story regarding White Company, at least in the Russian community, that if on the tournaments in the semifinals you are fighting White Company, and even if you win, you will definitely lose the finals, just because you will be so exhausted. There will be no chance that you're winning the finals. So it's like, even if you're losing, your team making yourself a name. So even by losing, still everybody fears because winning over White Company doesn't mean if you enter the list with White Company, that means you already lost, even if you win. So
well, I'm glad people feel like this. I would feel even better if it was us that we win those semifinals.
Well, it depends on you. It depends on you.
Truly,
sorry, guys.
Truly, yes.
Yeah. So back on the Battle of the Nations, and just looking at this the screen and memories bringing back in. And this Battle of the Nation in Serbia, we had something really new, such as mass battles, 150 versus 150. And obviously you've participated. So share us the impression of the person inside. So how was it? So was there some strategy? Was you in command, or you were in some platoon that follows somebody's command? So how it was from the inside?
So yes, there was a strategy. As you can probably see, the both blocks, both alliances are set up differently. So UK, together with our allies from 30v30, Belarus, Moldova, Israel, we were right in the middle of that alliance. There were another 2 blocks of mainly Russian fighters on our flanks, and slightly behind us there were another two banners which were supposed to get in slightly later. And I've got to tell you, being right in the middle of that absolute mayhem. I mean, okay, you formed the banners and so on, but when you're right at the front of it, and I couldn't help myself. I was supposed to be in charge of that banner and that block, but I couldn't help myself. I had to go forward and then fight, and you just get hit from every single angle. The blows are falling from everywhere. You think you're defending yourself, and it turns out that you're not, and you get hit suddenly, and so on. it was really exhausting. There was a moment where we were swapping, so people who were fighting in the front line, and there were not many takedowns. I mean, you get hit, but people are not dropping. The armor is good enough, plus you're being propped up from every angle as well. There were moments when we were swapping. So basically, you would disengage the fighter in front of you, and you would ask your teammates from behind to come forward, and he would be fighting, and you would be standing behind him, propping him up or pulling him back if possible. But you would not be, trading blows on a front line. And I think this is partially how it really looked in medieval times. As you can see, it's not a series of duels. It is a real battle. Okay, people can say, but you don't thrust, you don't do this, you don't that. Well, at the end of the day, we all want to go home from there. You may remember you had, 6 or 8 ambulances on standby, but none was needed. So that just shows, how well prepared people were for this fight. And absolutely amazing. Amazing experience, great thing. I know there were complaints that, oh, look, the lists again. The Russians put the list because they want to win and so on. And, well, some people will keep talking, but amazing experience. And, do it again, please. I'll definitely be fighting. And it was also a nice thing that the 4th day was non-competitive. Maybe it takes something away because you get your medals. After a day of non-competitive fighting, so your emotions have subsided a little bit. Especially the 5s were on day 1, so it's 3 days since we've won the medal. Then the 12s and the 30s, but actually I like that format. I really enjoyed it. Maybe consider giving out the medals after each day. I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea, and then have a bigger ceremony and so on. But that's not up to me. I'm just throwing it out there. But the fact that it's a non-competitive day and you can still go out there and it's organized. It's not this, all kind of like, oh, we've got 45 here and 25 here, and we end up like that. It was still competitive. Still, I think it was brilliant to watch from the public's perspective. Keep doing it.
Well, it's interesting regarding the public's perspective. Again, guys, if you watched this stream, please share your impressions regarding 150 versus 150 in the comments, in the chat. So please tell your impressions regarding this. And I would like to ask Gavin, you were on the online stream, so were there any impressions? So what's...
I have to say that trying to do commentary for the 150 versus 150 was a professional low point for me, because it was so hard to give useful, informative commentary on it. The one thing that we changed was more about we were able to talk about overall strategies. What Pawel said before, that there's no sort of dueling, there's no area where you go 1 versus 1. It really is all part of a mass. And also you have to express that in the commentary and go through what people are seeing. It's just difficult, for example, in moments, as you can see now, when it's very, very hard to make out what advances are being made. Some of the camera angles, however, which came from above, were really, really useful, and they sort of punctuated the action as it was going. The duration of these fights was quite long, so there was a real sense of battle that people could get into, and it was very, very interesting to see how certain people or certain groups of people they flanked, they move around, and towards the end the fight actually finished in a very, very interesting shape, which we hadn't even seen in the 30 versus 30. So I think this new idea of strategy, if any of it was accidental, then I think it's a very happy accident. But I think it was something which had been a dream. I remember, I don't know if you remember also, the summit back in 2016. The president at the time had this idea for, I think he said it was 300 versus 300. And I think I was the first person to say, look, that's how are you supposed to manage that? How do the marshals manage that? How can it be done? It's crazy talk. But here we are. The 150 versus 150 took place. And as Pawel said, do it again, bring it back. I think it was really, really successful, and it gives people that idea of battle, the real sense of battle. So I think this will be a key feature. Again, also, as Pawel said, given that it's on the last day, it gives, it takes away the sort of competitive edge of it. Of course, people are fighting to win, obviously. But I think they can they can experience it in a different way. From an audience point of view, the comments that were coming in at the time of the live stream were people were just flabbergasted by it. People were really taken back by the sheer mass of what they were seeing in front of them. And of course, there were questions coming up. How is this coordinated? How do the marshals work? And all these sorts of things. And yeah, as you can see, it's not exactly a marshal's dream to be stuck in the middle of anything. Of course, they have to take care of themselves. But the comments that we got from people during that, people were just mad about it. People were going crazy about it. And I think it's a feature that everybody will want to see in future editions of Battle of the Nations.
Yeah, 100% on the last day. This is definitely the public's sport, and that gives them something. And it was absolutely wonderful experience. So. Yeah,
you can see the public there. I mean, it was absolutely full to the rafters. We've never had such a big audience in the public for Battle of the Nations, and really the supporters in Serbia were wonderful. They were just the best fans. They were 100% behind it. Big noise coming from them. Support right from day one. For example, Thursday is the first day, and it's usually a fairly quiet day for the proceedings in terms of audience numbers. Not in Smederevo. Again, the tribunes were pretty much full. They were very busy at certain points, but they certainly weren't empty. And yeah, the support was really wonderful from them. So exactly as Pawel said, it's something for the crowd, and they reacted so well to it, as they had done through the competitive events as well.
Yeah, it was really spectacular view, and we're using these footages, these pictures, and actually a lot of people, they do not believe that it is for real. So
oh, yes.
I personally presented. I worked on exhibition, HMB exhibition in different parts of the world and different countries, and the most common thing that people said, okay, so where is the sport? I said, okay, look, this is the video footage. No. This is some sort of the cinema, movie, whatever. Where is the sport? So even if you are standing and you're trying to, this is for real. These are people. People do not believe that such thing is possible.
Well, if anybody is capable of choreographing that, then I would be impressed. There is no way you could possibly choreograph something like that.
Look, to be honest, any cinematic battle you will see looks shit comparing to what you can see here.
It's true, but this is actually it's a good point. I don't want to sidetrack too much, but the things that you see in cinema, and obviously these really cringeworthy, embarrassing battles that the medieval knights have in the cinema, and they're so painfully far from reality. And the thing is that this is far closer. This is much closer to anything you're ever going to see in the cinema.
Our swords don't wobble and they don't flex. So
that was just great. Look at it. This was the end point in the 150 that I was talking about. You see how it actually cordons off that corner area. And you can see the flank at the top there. They pushed as much as possible onto that. And when the Russians had actually taken control of that corner, it was where there was a lot more pressure on the other side. They were actually able to circle around them. And then, again, it's difficult to. You see, there's still so much happening in the fight, even though you can see that the one team had moved the opponent right back into their corner. There was still so much happening at that point.
Yeah. There were not many people down. You had some bodies in the middle, but in general, most of it. If you look at the end, I think that the vast majority of the fighters are still standing on their feet.
Yeah.
So I would say 200 fighters are still fighting there.
Yeah.
Our alliance had an advantage, of course, at this point. But I think good 200 people are still on their feet.
And you can see that it closed there into the corner. So pole arms strewn across the list there.
Yeah, Gavin, you mentioned that you haven't believed that somebody can bring such a number of fighters in the field. I can share my own memory from Izborsk, from Russia, and there were fights 100 versus 100. And
when was that, Ivan?
Oof, I believe it was 2012 or 2013. I can't remember. I can't remember for sure. I can find it, but for the moment I don't remember exact year. But the thing is that first of all, it was very hot. It was about like 28, 30 degrees, and just a lot of people they took unconscious just because of the heat. And the most intense memory from that, out of 200 people in the field, in the end there were 5, I think, standing.
How long did it last?
It wasn't last for too long. It was lasted like maybe 5, maybe 6 minutes.
Okay.
But the thing is, was so intense. The sun was so hot.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can imagine there are 200 people from those sides, and the battle is ended. Okay, where are the winners? 5 of you, all 5 of you.
Well, I think there's also a question of quality of the armor. You're talking a couple of years back, and probably not everyone was entirely to the HMB standards, as we have it now on Battle of the Nations. So the kills were coming in rather faster. You can see paramedics there at work, but I think there was no major injuries.
Okay, guys, so it is really nice to share the memories. I just to remind to the people that we are going to make more streams, that we are going to invite more people to share memories with us, and we don't want to took Pawel for too long. Maybe just some.
I've got so many things to do.
Yeah. Still, we as well, but we don't want to spoil everything in just one evening. Just maybe again use your opportunity to ask some questions in the online chat. We still have maybe...
There you are. Yeah.
Okay. Just maybe a fun question from my side. Then maybe Gavin will come up with something too. Just a fun question for you, Pawel. If you have an opportunity to challenge anyone in the world to a fight, I don't know. Your prime minister, for example. I don't know who for a fight. Yes. Who would you choose?
Anyone to the fight. But if I choose that person, we won't be evenly matched.
Well, it's just like, for fun. It's like maybe you can choose an even fighter. For example, we discussed with the Sergey Okolov yesterday. Would he challenge, I don't know, Conor McGregor or Khabib?
If I could choose, you actually gave me some good ideas. Yeah, I'd like to get someone from like heavyweights in MMA, because they always go like, I was training MMA and I was doing this. So maybe one of the real fighters, Brock Lesnar.
Okay, that's
I think I can take him.
Good choice.
He's got a sword tattoo on his chest. Let's see how he can handle the sword.
Okay, Gavin, maybe something else from your side.
I'm not so sure. I mean, that's a great question you asked them. I'm not sure how I can top that. But I was just curious about the idea of sort of interdisciplinary, because there are a lot of people who are into HMB, and of course they do martial arts, they do other kind of sports. Are you, or have you been involved in any other sports you'd like to talk about, which might have led to this, or you think that gives you some kind of development advantage in HMB?
Yeah, I mean, since I was a rather fat kid, but since I was a teenager, I've done a lot of sports, starting with karate, judo. When I moved to UK, of course I played like football, basketball, and so on, but they're not violent sports. And then when I moved to UK, I started playing rugby. I've watched Rugby World Cup 2007, and I thought, oh, that's for me. I need to try that. But the problem was that a lot of people were starting fights with me, but nobody wanted to finish it. And the fights were being finished with me getting yellow or red carded for knocking someone out. So that was a constant issue. And finally, when I found that there is something where I can hit people and not get yellow carded for it, but get praised, I was like, that's really something from me. If I find a footage of my first ever training, I'll try to share it. I think someone still has it. It was in a bunker, and it ended up with me nearly throwing Łukasz Kowal over the fence. First time in armor. So I could not move because armor was scrambled from 2 or 3 people, so I could barely walk in it. And first I got hit, and I was like, oh, it doesn't hurt. And then I hit someone, and that someone fell over. I'm like, oh, that's fun. So ended up with Łukasz on top of me, and I thought, no, I'm not going down. And I intended to throw him over the fence, which was made of pallets, and did not succeed, but made a lot of noise from that time. And
excellent.
That was a great sport. But if I was to say, like the sports closest to what we do, I fully believe that wrestling, but I'm talking about Greco-Roman wrestling, not the American WWE stuff. So Greco-Roman wrestling or a freestyle, judo, and in terms of team sports, then rugby. I've never played American football, so I'm not going to compare it. But rugby, some of the contact is really useful, and when I put on the helmet, I kind of like feel invincible. So in rugby, I don't have that. There is this little barrier where, maybe not a barrier, but I can't use my head to knock people out. So.
Okay, so guys, any questions? Any more questions to Pawel?
It looks like they just offered to ask Sylvester Stallone to fight with you.
He's really old. Why would you want me to beat a pensioner? The guy would probably get a heart. The guy would probably get a heart attack by the time he would put it on. Actually, I'd rather fight Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's vegan, so God knows.
Okay.
That wouldn't be a fair fight.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you very much, and thank you very much for all who were with us here. Let us know in the comments what would you like to know about more. Who would you like to see on the live stream with us? If you have any questions to Pawel, you can address directly to him. I believe he's still available for some time. Not so much to do, but answering your questions.
A very short question to Pawel. Which rugby 13 or rugby 15 you played? I don't know.
15. I've never played rugby league. Besides, if there's no scrummaging, it's not rugby. He will understand.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you very much, Pawel, for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Nice to see you again, guys. Please share your own memories. Please share your own pictures from Battle of the Nations. Share your stories. let's make this week a good replacement for the events that we all miss this year.
Okay. See you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.